Have you ever walked into a room and felt like everyone else received instructions that you somehow missed? Like there's an invisible script for how to talk, how to laugh at the right moment, how to stand without looking awkward, and somehow everyone else memorized it except you. You sit there, nodding along, smiling when it seems appropriate, but inside there's this quiet thought whispering, I don't really belong here. Maybe it happens at family gatherings where the conversations feel strangely distant, even though these people have known you your whole life. Maybe it happens at work where you do everything right, yet still feel like a visitor pretending to be an employee. Or maybe it happens everywhere: classrooms, parties, group chats, crowded cafes. That strange sensation of being present, but not fully part of the moment. Most people assume that feeling out of place means something is wrong with you, that maybe you're socially awkward, too quiet, too different, or just not confident enough. But psychology tells a far more interesting story, because the people who feel out of place are often not the ones who understand the world the least. They're the ones who notice it the most. Your brain is constantly scanning for patterns, for belonging, for signals that say, you're safe here. When those signals don't line up, even slightly, something subtle happens inside you. Instead of relaxing into the environment, your mind stays alert. You watch, you listen, you analyze, you measure your words before speaking them. And without realizing it, you become an observer in a world full of participants. Psychologists sometimes talk about something called social attunement, the ability to sync emotionally with the people around you. But people who always feel out of place often experience something closer to hyperattunement. You notice tone shifts others ignore. You pick up on tension hidden beneath polite conversation. You sense when laughter isn't genuine, when someone is pretending, when a situation feels slightly artificial. It's like having emotional night vision in a brightly lit room. Everyone else sees the obvious shapes, but you notice the shadows. And that awareness can create distance. Imagine sitting in a group where everyone is joking and talking casually. On the surface, everything looks comfortable, but your mind starts asking quiet questions. Do they really mean that? Why did her smile fade so quickly? Why does this conversation feel forced? While everyone else is riding the moment, you're examining it, and analysis is the opposite of immersion. Research in personality psychology suggests that people high in introspection and self-awareness often report stronger feelings of alienation, not because they lack social ability, but because they see layers of social interaction that others overlook. Your brain isn't just experiencing reality, it's interpreting it in real time. And interpretation creates distance. There's also something else that happens early in life for many people who feel out of place. At some point, maybe in childhood, maybe during school years, you learned that blending in required effort. Maybe you were the quiet kid in a loud environment. Maybe your interests were different. Maybe you were mature for your age or sensitive in a place that valued toughness. Maybe you moved schools, changed social circles, or never quite found a group that felt natural. When that happens, the brain develops a subtle survival strategy: observation before participation. Instead of assuming you belong, you test the environment first. You read the room, you adjust yourself, you become flexible, adaptable, careful. On the outside, that can look like calmness or politeness, but inside, it feels like standing slightly behind a glass wall. You're there, you're included, but never completely relaxed. And here's something surprising. Many people who feel out of place are actually very good socially. They can hold conversations, make people laugh, and behave appropriately in almost any situation. Others might even describe them as friendly or easy to talk to. But there's a difference between functioning socially and feeling like you belong. Belonging is emotional. It's that rare feeling where you don't have to monitor yourself, where silence doesn't feel awkward, where you can say something slightly strange and trust it will be understood. For people who feel out of place, that kind of belonging can feel rare, almost accidental, like stumbling across a hidden room you didn't know existed. Another reason this feeling runs so deep is that your brain remembers moments of disconnection more vividly than moments of acceptance. Psychologists call this negativity bias, the tendency for negative experiences to leave stronger impressions than positive ones. You might have dozens of normal interactions, but one moment of being misunderstood or excluded sticks like a splinter. And the brain learns from that splinter. It becomes cautious. Next time you walk into a room, part of you is already preparing for the possibility that you won't fit in. Not dramatically, just quietly. And over time, this creates an identity. You stop thinking, sometimes I feel out of place. You start thinking, I am someone who doesn't fit. But identities built from feelings aren't always accurate reflections of reality. They're stories the brain uses to make sense of repeated experiences. And sometimes those stories leave out important details. Because people who feel out of place often share another psychological trait, depth of perception. You think about conversations long after they end. You reflect on decisions. You replay moments in your mind, searching for meaning. Your inner world becomes rich and detailed, sometimes more vivid than the social world around you. And that richness can make ordinary environments feel shallow by comparison. Small talk feels repetitive. Surface-level interactions feel incomplete. You crave conversations that go somewhere, discussions about ideas, memories, fears, possibilities. You don't just want to talk, you want to connect. But deep connections take time, and modern life moves fast. People are busy, conversations stay brief, interactions skim the surface. So you walk away from many encounters feeling like something important never quite happened, like the real conversation stayed locked inside your head. There's also a quiet paradox at the heart of feeling out of place. The more you worry about not fitting in, the harder it is to act naturally. It's like trying to walk normally while thinking about every step. Suddenly, something that used to be automatic feels mechanical. Your voice sounds unfamiliar, your gestures feel forced, your laughter feels slightly delayed, like an echo instead of a reaction. And then comes the thought that reinforces everything. Everyone else seems so natural. But here's the hidden truth most people never see. A surprising number of people feel out of place. They just hide it differently. Some talk more, some joke more, some stay constantly busy. Some blend into groups so well that no one would ever guess how disconnected they feel inside. Belonging is often quieter and more fragile than it looks from the outside. And sometimes the people who seem the most comfortable are actually the best at disguising uncertainty. What makes people who feel out of place unique isn't weakness, it's perspective. You notice environments more carefully, you reflect more deeply, you question assumptions others accept automatically. You build identities based on meaning rather than convenience. In a strange way, feeling out of place can mean you're less shaped by the crowd. You're not automatically pulled into every trend, every opinion, every expectation. You maintain a small psychological distance from social pressure, and distance creates clarity. Many artists, writers, thinkers, and innovators have described feeling like outsiders at some point in their lives. That outsider perspective often becomes a source of creativity and insight, a way of seeing the world that isn't limited by familiar patterns. Because sometimes belonging everywhere means never fully seeing anywhere. But feeling out of place also carries a quiet gift that most people overlook. It teaches you how meaningful real connection is. When you do find people who understand you, conversations that flow effortlessly, silences that feel comfortable, moments where you don't feel the need to perform, those experiences feel almost electric, not ordinary, rare. And maybe that rarity is part of what makes them valuable. The strange thing is, feeling out of place doesn't always mean you don't belong. Sometimes it means you haven't found the right environment yet, or the right people, or the right version of yourself. Belonging isn't always about changing who you are. Sometimes it's about finding spaces where you don't have to. And maybe the goal isn't to feel perfectly at home everywhere. Maybe that was never realistic in the first place. Maybe being human means carrying a little bit of unfamiliarity wherever you go. But if you spent most of your life feeling slightly different, slightly outside the circle,
Maybe that feeling isn't just a flaw to fix. Maybe it's a signal. A signal that your mind looks deeper, that your awareness runs quieter and further than average, that you're searching for something real. So, if you've ever walked into a room and felt like you didn't belong, you might not be broken. You might just be someone who notices more than most. And maybe the real question isn't why you feel out of place. Maybe the real question is where you feel most like yourself. Because somewhere, in some conversation, some environment, and some unexpected moment, that quiet distance disappears. And when it does, you realize something surprising. You were never meant to fit everywhere, just somewhere that feels true. And if this feeling is familiar to you, that quiet sense of being slightly outside the moment, you might be more understood than you think.